out.
Yeah. And let me bring you on here. Jump on wisdom if you're able to, because I'm going to bring you on, and I'll add you to. I think you could push the Q thing to
Yeah,
add. Welcome into Night Mood, everybody. I am Michael. I'm sitting here in the lab. This is part 2 of a great conversation we're going to have with one of my good friends. He's becoming one of my good friends. Justeen Yang is in the lab with me, all the way from the West Coast. And we're going to be talking about faith, life, and love on this episode of the live stream version and the podcast. So you're getting the video live stream on our YouTube channels. NiteMoodzHQ is our YouTube handle, and my personal YouTube channel, as well as the WhatsApp, which we're live streaming right now. So welcome into today's episode, Faith, Life, and Love. If I say it backwards, I will get corrected in the middle of it. Today's episode is brought to you in part by my friends at Logos Bible Software. Logos combines digital books with intelligent software to help you study the Bible deeply. You can do word studies with one click, search virtually anything in your Bible, and enjoy dozens of features that help you see more in the scriptures. It's like having a personal study Bible assistant. Click the link in this episode description to get your copy of Logos 10. Now, truth be told, I have been utilizing Logos 10 for over 11 years, and it is fundamentally a game changer on top of my traditional books I study. This is for me, I would not be without Logos Bible Software. So make sure you click the link in this episode or email us at nitemoodzhdq@gmail.com. We'll get you the link and you can get your very own copy with a special discount from Night Moods from my great friends at Logos 10 and the Faith Life family. We're ready to get started. And again, I'm in the lab with Justeen Yang. She is joining me for part 2 of it's going to be an inspirational, encouraging, I think consequential conversation we're going to have. For those of you who've been following my life, it's been crazy. So we got Q&A going to be happening. We're going to put Justeen on the hot seat in a little bit, and you get to know Justeen. She is a animal 4-legged lover. She has her own website. We'll be discussing that as well during this episode. And if you have any questions on relationships, Justeen is filled with wisdom. She is really kind of all over Twitter, and you'll catch her at her hashtag, which I'm going to be introducing her in a few seconds here. She's just a really inspirational woman, and I am blessed that she came into my life in the middle of crazy crisis I talk about on the radio show. So without further ado, welcome into part 2 with Miss Justeen. Hello.
Hello, thank you for having me. And I apologize if you have any feedback because I am in the Wisdom app and I can hear you here and here. So I'm wondering, should I just leave the app?
No, stay there. I got feedback too. I actually put the earbud in just because it would drown it out. I'm going to focus because it's like a lot of reverb, but that's okay. Maybe turn the volume down there, but we'll get after it here. Part 2. I know the last time we were together in the lab, I did not get to the number of questions, and then we started receiving. Pastor Chris is on, by the way. He says hello.
Hello.
We started to receive encouragement from the wisdom that you were sharing, and it was really kind of cool. I was sitting there thinking, I need to have you back on for another in-depth conversation to help as many who are just going through life, maybe relationships, or I call it the love bridge. And when that love bridge kind of detonates or implodes, or sometimes the love bridge is what I call breaks down because sabotage occurs, So let's get into it. Justeen, this is going to be fun.
Yes.
Those new to the program don't know who you are. So let's share part 2 about Miss Justeen. Who is Justeen?
So I am an entrepreneur. I run an online pet apparel business. Everything is made to order, custom made. Last week, I actually launched a pet sitting business. How me and Michael met was through Twitter.
Mhm.
Apparently and thankfully, a lot of my tweets helped. And on my little tiny Twitter page, we happened to connect. He happened to come on, and now we're here. We've developed a really great friendship and relationship. And I think I'm just thankful and blessed to have not only met you, but to be on your podcast and have this opportunity, and just genuinely be there for you through any dark, hard times. I mean, for me, I started my Twitter not really having a plan. I just
Mhm.
started it because I wanted to bring value to others and
Mhm.
serve. I've always been a strong communicator, as I said on the first episode. So it's really cool to just naturally use the gifts and talents that I've been granted to help others out. But yeah, that's me. I'm, a sister, a daughter, girlfriend. I love animals. I have a good relationship with God. It could always be greater, but yeah, and then of course I have this dream of having my own podcast, which I'm hoping that, I can bring to fruition. And it's kind of one of the crazy little coincidences that have occurred where I was able to meet you, and then you can probably guide me and introduce me into that world because I know nothing about that yet.
I think you're gonna be just fine.
Yeah.
Um, there's so many superlatives when we have special guests on, and you'll run into this too. But um, I'm almost gonna call you the queen of tweets,
Oh, okay. Okay. I'll
just
take
because
that.
you randomly what she does. She literally will just drop one-liners, but they're not just your regular, ordinary or one-liners. It's like it comes from this innermost place where when you share it, I think I like myself and my position and just where I'm at in life.
Mhm.
It just we gravitate toward. I gravitated toward the tweets, and I thought it was just phenomenal. It was like a lifeline. You're like a lifeline on social media.
I love that. I mean, it's so crazy too because I'll just listen to podcasts and I'll be sitting in church and I'll be at the gym and I'll have these thoughts and ideas that just come to me. And it
Hmm.
is almost supernatural sometimes because I'm like, I almost just feel it naturally flowing. And then, to hear that it can help others is a great feeling because I'm just here doing it to serve, and then to hear from the people that it's helping, I'm like, it's awesome. And that's what life is all about, is connecting and loving and just being there for one another.
As we talk on part two, I'm actually going to pull some of your tweets because I you got some new ones,
Hmm.
and I've been kind of a busy last couple of days, and I'm like, oh, that's nice. So, Justine, you got to help me out. I missed a question last time,
Hmm.
and I got some questions. You
Okay.
know, how the first one, what do you enjoy most about you?
Hmm. Most about me is my strong mindset and mentality. And that can be a blessing and a curse as well, because a lot of people have told me you come off too strong, you kind of act like a know it all. I have these flaws where it's not always hard to apologize. It's more so when I am faced with conflict, I'm like, this
Mm.
is why I reacted or did it this way. And they're like, yeah, but this is the problem. And and so for me, the thing that I like most about myself though is my strength, just strong personality, great communication skills, strong mindset. I've
Mhm.
been told more than once that I'm very positive. Whenever I'm faced with adversity, I know how to switch it and make sure that I gain from it. or
Mhm.
benefit from it in some way. I'm able to see things so much more differently than others. So when I see people going through things or having breakdowns, like I'm empathetic about it, but in such a way where I want to come up with a solution and I like being
Right.
there for them. Um, I recently went to Mexico with my boyfriend's family, and his dad is in rehab. And so for me, he was asking, my boyfriend was asking me, like, how did you think about it? How did you feel? And all I could think about was, wow, like this is my first time kind of witnessing a rehab. Here's kind of how I would do it differently
Mhm.
or run it differently. And I genuinely wanted to see a little bit more of God in these people. And in reality, obviously for his dad, he just wants to come home. But it's things like that where I am just able to think about it in a way where a lot of people probably won't take it that way. But for me, I'm like, I want to help solve, um, these issues, and how do I do it, and how do I make this difference, and I just have like this, I want to change the world attitude about it.
I see that. I see that in tweets. You know, I'm listening to what you're saying. What challenges have you made it through that when you're looking back, you
Mhm.
can see you can see you now from seeing you then? Like the changes, like relationship wise, maybe. Let's talk about relationships. Period.
Yeah, relationships are actually really easy for me to talk about because it's like when I'm faced with adversity now, I
Mhm.
am able to reflect on my behavior or my reaction, and I can instantly check it. Whereas before, I would turn to these mechanisms where I would either shut down. I had a very avoidant attachment style where whenever I was faced with conflict, I would either leave and I would shut people out and I would have this wall up. And a lot of it had to do with me and my childhood growing up because I was raised by a single mother, mostly was around other people that I didn't feel super comfortable being around um,
Mhm.
because they were like after school carers or babysitters. And so for me, I had to self regulate almost and kind of, I feel like that's what makes me very quote unquote strong is that I have to figure out quick and adapt fast, and no one's gonna be there to like if I fall, they're not gonna baby me to get back up. I'm like, okay, I gotta get back up. I gotta keep trying, and so that's kind of one of the things that I've learned is uh, when I am faced with this conflict, what's a better way to deal with it and what's a more mature way to deal with it, and
Mhm.
longevity in the long run, what's a healthier way to deal with it. So that's been probably the biggest realization, especially at my age. I'm 31. So it's like I look at young Justine, baby Justine, teenage Justine, and I can see how much I've grown, and communication in relationships is such a huge pivotal moment. It's a huge factor in relationships where you
Yeah.
can tell if it's going to make or break the relationship.
Yeah.
So I think it was Jay Shetty who said, it's not about what you guys fight about, but how you guys fight.
Oh,
So that's also another big thing in relationships. But like I said before, I would shut down, I would stonewall, I would leave, and then now it's still kind of there, but I'm able to actually recognize and realize it, and I'm like, okay, hold on, like we got to really stick this out and try to stay calm and communicate, and figure out where each person is coming from and come
mhm.
to a solution or resolution together.
Mhm.
And another thing that I really like that my boyfriend and I do is we do check-ins, which I think we learned it off of someone else on social media, where basically check-ins are every once in a while, maybe every 1 or 2 times a week. We're just like, hey, how do you feel about the relationship? What can I do better? What do you feel I can do better? What do you like best about the relationship? What should we work on?
Mm.
And just making sure that date nights are um, a priority. Making sure that we're just both taking care of each other, and um, not only together in the relationship but individually. So just checking in on how we feel. So, it's like, for example, it wasn't too long ago where I was like, I feel like my business has slowed down and I kind of want to try other things and I want to feel alive again. And, for him, he's like, oh, I want to find a little bit more stability, and, I want to go after these different goals. And so we're all kind of in the same um, realm of things. We know how one like how each other or how each of us are going through life, but also how that ties into the relationship. And so I feel like I went on a tangent with your question, but
No, because I was going to talk about conflict resolution, and you're talking about check-ins, and
Mhm,
think about my marriage and the disaster that became a reality last year.
mhm,
And we were talking off camera. We've been talking a little bit, and you sent me this blessed paragraph that I'm like, do I want to go there on this episode? We'll see. Because I'm like an open book. Because I realize I'm not the only one whose relationship has imploded
mhm,
and
mhm,
have been caught unaware. And so, like, you drop this nugget, self-care attracts abundance.
mhm.
And I know how important that exercise is to you. Can you share a little bit about what that does in the psyche, in your faith, with regarding relationship, with conflict resolution?
In terms of self-care,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, self-care is such a pivotal part because I've always known that if you do not love yourself, you cannot love anyone else. It just doesn't attract either. So essentially, for me, I love my alone time, because alone time, you can be reading a book. You don't have any distractions. You don't feel like you have to cater to anyone but yourself. You could
Mhm.
be in prayer with God. You can listen to a podcast and take notes. Um, Go to the gym. There's so many ways that you can do self care. It doesn't just have to be this expensive spa day. You could take a hike, be one with nature. And that is so important, because the relationship that you have with yourself essentially reflects the relationship that you have with others. And not only that, it teaches and shows others how to treat you. So if you're treating yourself with respect, you're very independent. They know, and they also are influenced by that, but they also know um, just how to treat you better, because you know that you treat yourself so well and you hold yourself up to these standards. And you won't attract anything less, because why would you settle for anything less if you're this gym goer who takes really great care of their health, and really makes rest a priority, nutrition a priority, uh, little things like that. It's just how the world works, is you like attracts like. So you reap what you sow. Make sure that what you're reaping and planting in your garden is good, because then you're just going to end up with rotten fruits if you don't take care of yourself. And that's just the best way to blossom. And you have to surround yourself with other great individuals. Be aware of your environment and your surroundings. um, all those things matter. And just like how you invest into business, just how you read books to invest in your own knowledge, you have to do that with yourself, with relationships. Um, don't ever think you're a know-it-all. Like you never stop learning in life.
Right.
So for me, when it comes to any questions that I have, I'll dive into it. If I am dealing with like a hard time in my life, whether it be like a financial struggle or business struggle, I'll look into it and I'll try to solve it. When my Etsy sales were slowing down, I was like, okay, how do I increase the sales, and how do I change the titles and the keywords, and how do I compete against all these other Etsy sellers? And it's like there's always going to be someone who is smarter, faster, but like my work ethic is up there, and on top of that, my curiosity is always there. So as long as you're doing that and taking care of yourself, you will see the return on that.
Wow. You guys can email on the live stream NiteMoodzHQ@gmail.com if you have questions regarding around love, faith, and life. We're talking about that, and then we're also integrating the podcast. So I was sitting there thinking, I cannot wait for your podcast to like launch. Or I kid you not, because I told you this before. God has you in such a way, you are like a life preserver to me. And I kept thinking to myself, and I was talking to Pastor Chris last night and my son, and when I had this spiritual breakthrough, so I'm going to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
You're not dropping wisdom just for the sake of a viral moment, or just to be seen out there amongst the rest of everyone in this influential space.
Yeah.
I think you're more you're circumspect with how you want to serve, and I told you this before, you're this golden key, especially in my life. And I just really, really appreciate the fact that it wasn't random, because nothing's random, right? And I'm thinking, wow, Michael, you have your degrees, and life is really giving you life right now, and then here you are, and it's like you're this added vessel in the middle of this sea that has been churning, and realizing, just listening to other mentors and Pastor Chris and those in my inner circle. I told you I only got a handful in my inner circle.
Yeah.
And there's you right here. If I can have one more digit, it'd be 11 digits. But I can't wait for your podcast, because you have so much wisdom and value that I believe this generation, like my generation, needs, your generation needs, and generations coming up, because we're walking through these experiences, and you're able to turn it around and just put a seed in the earth. And that's the cool thing about my relationship with you. It's not manufactured. It's just more organic. And I'm like, that was profound. Like, the key is what we do with our lows. You dropped this one on February 24th. Like, what? I have to be like, say it again, read it slow, take your emotions out of it. And what's the value in what is being said, and how can I use it to make myself better in this situation, circumstances, or this crisis?
Yeah.
The key is what we do with our lows. What in the world? I got you here. Come on.
I mean, it's like the last tweet that you said in the first episode, turn your negatives into fuel.
So, that was mind-blowing. That was crazy.
Yeah. And so it's like, even this one, it's just with the lows, that there's going to be a high coming, because it's just like when you hit rock bottom, there's no more after that, because you hit rock bottom. You've had your breakdown. If everything is stripped away from you, and you just feel like you're at your last limb, the only way is up. You just got to climb that ladder and get yourself out of it, and it's gonna be hard as hell. I mean, we all have gone through our own trials and tribulations. It doesn't end, but at the end of the day, um, just keeping your faith strong and seeing that there's so much beauty in the breakdown is the most valuable lesson in all of that.
Have you come across rock bottom victims who, had given up the fight, and how would you talk to that individual?
I like when people come to me during their low times, because I'm not tooting my own horn, but I'm able to kind of help them through and guide them out of it. It's funny because when I was doing this little test run for my podcast, I had a really good friend of mine that I wanted on as my first guest. And he was telling me he was just going through too much. He had a lot of anxiety. He had guilt. He had instability, and all these like excuses and reasons why he didn't want to come on. And he said, I can't show up as the person that you need me to be. And I said, that's self-inflicted. I'm like, I want you to show up as you, and I wanted you as my first guest because I see the gifts, the talents, the beauty in you. And I'm like, you have to get out of your own head, and I want people who are authentic, who can bring that value as truly themselves, no one else. We are all able to relate better if you come up just naked human, nothing to hide. And that's just what I can't stand, is when people are doing it for virality, they're doing it for attention. And not to knock Gary Vee or Grant Cardone, but they're in the position that they're in, and they have so much free flowing power and the strength that they exude that is very influential, because they were able to overcome a lot of different things. And now you see the shiny, chiseled version of them.
Right.
Yeah. So for me, it's just, I want people to just come as they are. I genuinely love getting to know people and connecting with them. I'm always curious. And I think that's why our relationship was able to be so organic.
Yeah.
Even when I go out, I think so outside of the box. Like, I think when I see the postman, I'm like, I want to give him like a little gift basket, because no one's probably ever thought of that or done that for him. And I want him to know that he's so important, and I love that he does what he does. Same thing with the trash man working in the rain. It's like, he thinks no one's thinking about him. Well, I'm thinking about him, and I'm grateful for him. And so little things like that, But
where did that come from?
Like how I feel when I see it just comes from love. It comes from me genuinely knowing and recognizing that they're human beings. And same thing with animals. We can learn a lot from animals, because I just put myself in their shoes. I'm like, okay, this senior dog that I'm pet sitting is shivering, and she's probably wondering where her family is. So I'm just going to take her with me, and I'm going to let her know that her family's going to be home soon, and put a little sweater on her, wrap her up in a blanket. So I think it all just comes from compassion. And one of the things that I've learned is you see God in others when you see it in yourself. So I've also heard that, and it's kind of like the Holy Spirit as well, but I've also heard once you're in that walk of faith, you see things so much differently. All of a sudden, you notice the butterfly, you notice the hummingbird, you notice the skies, you notice the stars shining a little brighter. So, but I'm sorry. I think I totally forgot what your question was prior
No,
to
because you're
all
answering it.
this.
It's,
Okay, cool.
it's come from compassion, and I could not do this episode. I know we talked about before with everything going on. You're like, we can push it back or postpone it. But I'm like, you're just talking about the organic and people just being authentic, and I wouldn't show up any other way. And yeah, there's this buffer of how much, we'll put out there
Mhm.
so that we're protecting ourselves, especially in this world we're living in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, there's no way, because I'm pausing, which is good. It gives you clarity to think.
Mhm.
And I think we need to pause more when we're having conversations, like to have self-thought. And like you said something earlier on the phone, don't be not rational with your thoughts, and choosing out through emotions. And
Mhm.
that's what the week's been. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I could not be here in the lab with you because I'm not the only one. And it's
Mhm.
not gonna be like lights on, cameras on, mics on. So we're gonna be, Dr. Thomas is here. No, it's the real deal. It's
Yeah.
we're living life. And so I don't want to live outside of the confines from where I'm at right now.
Right. And that's the thing is you can help so many people with your story, with what you're going through, because life is too short to learn from your own mistakes. You have to also learn from the mistakes of others.
Mhm.
Um, Same thing with every single story. It may not go exactly the way that um, it did for you to others, but it's still something that they can relate to. It's still something that can help them through their dark times. There's just a lot of hurt in the world. There's a lot of dark in the world. And
Mhm.
um, I do think that, there does have to be a balance,
Yeah.
kind of the yin and yang, um, chaos and order. So um, that's kind of why I have that dream of having a podcast where people can just be authentic, be real. Tell me like the dark parts, tell me the skeletons in your closet, tell me the muddy waters that you're going through, just so that people can know that they're not alone. And
Right.
and tell me that there's a silver lining, tell me that there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
That's what I love about you, Justine, because like when I don't even know when we engaged on the Twitter, but it was one of your your one-liners. I was like, it had me thinking. And because for me, I'm always learning. I love to learn. And even when I'm in this unwanted season of pain,
Yeah.
your what you were sharing like caught my curiosity, because I'm like fighting myself, but I was like, wow, I need to like really unpack what she is saying,
Hmm.
and not immediately having an answer for it, but it just kind of was like, how do I unpack that? And I'm thinking about me now, and we're talking, and we had the conversation earlier, and like there's got to be so many other guys and girls who are on that love bridge, and if it's been one sabotaged, how do you live life going through sabotage
Hmm.
of your love bridge, or if it's
Yeah.
imploded, or it's been detonated and you didn't, there are no signs, or maybe you were void or numb to it, but now
Mhm.
here we are.
Yeah, and that also brings me to how this world deals with any type of trauma, the lack of communication skills, not being in tune with their emotions, not knowing how to deal through these emotions,
Mhm.
just pressing it all down. Um, the best visualization is looking at an iceberg. At the top is all people see, but they don't realize that beneath that water, there's so much more underneath that needs to be uncovered. And we're just floating up here thinking, if I just ignore it, if I just press it down, like it'll kind of go away, but it's not how it works. It comes up when everything else is kicking up. It's kind of like when the storm hits, you're just gonna have all this debris coming up. So I think that's another reason why I'm very compassionate, is because I don't know what that person is going through. I don't know what they went through. I don't know what their childhood was like. I don't know. I hear a lot of kids who I'm blown away by, because I always say, I can't believe you had that kind of upbringing. I can't believe you had those kind of parents, because I can't see a trace of that in you. And it just amazes me. But at the same time, I feel like God was protecting them and they have these angels on their side. And it's like always wanting to break this generational curse, and us wanting to be that generation to break that curse, or whatever it may be. Yeah, there's a lot of hurt, but we just have to be understanding and compassionate and wise and mature. And then we can truly get along with each other and understand each other and love better and make the world better.
I need to like repackage you, clone you, and ship you. You just threw out this iceberg, and I don't have a pin. I got to put this on replay, and just that is. I'm sitting there thinking about that. Wow, that's like really kind of cool, because it makes so much sense. And like for my life, it's like I've always dressed my iceberg.
Yeah.
Like I know Chris and Yana were always like, you are almost emotionless, and you're right here. And you're talking to me last night, and I'm okay. I think guys ought to be crying. I was raised that guys don't cry, and when I was served Wednesday, I was with the deputy I used to work with,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, "Hey, just be a man, you'll get through it, Mike."
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, mm-mm,
Mm-mm.
no, no, I don't think it's gonna work.
Yeah.
And so I could not be available for part two. I really couldn't.
Yeah.
It's too important, and I guess out of this, our conversation is to help another individual. If it's just one other person that was like me, I'll live in a cave, Justine, and I'll be behind a rock, and I'll
Yeah.
have that stalagmite dripping on me, and I'll come out and I'll be like, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'll be okay, and I'll toughen through it. And then when I'm home, it's like a mush,
Right.
a mush.
And
And
I wish the world would open up more, because there is that stigma of the masculinity and alpha male and ignore your emotions and man up, and why even talk about it if there's no point. I don't want to bring this person down. Whatever your reason or your excuse may be, I hate that, because it's so toxic to your inner self. I think of military guys. Our suicide rate for military guys is insane. It's through the roof. And that always hits me hard. Whenever someone asks me, hey, how are you doing? I always try to update them and be authentic and real with them, because why not? I mean, the people that love you want to be there for you. They want to help you. And so it would be so much nicer if when someone's like, hey, how are you doing? How's your day going? You're just real. And you're like, you know what? I'm having a really crappy day. This, and that happened. I'm going through financial struggles. I feel this way about myself. I feel so doubtful. And, you allow them the opportunity to either help you and be there for you, or you kind of get it out of your chest and you just find a better way to deal with it. And that's why, for me, I just wish that people would be more comfortable to open up more. And obviously, it has to be a safe space.
right.
But overall, it would just be so much nicer to really hear the truth in people and see that the world is turning a little better because we feel comfortable to be in our truth.
And see, that's what attracted me to the tweets that you produce.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you guys, Justine will tweet from an airplane. She'll tweet from any
Yeah. Oh yeah.
because it's a non-judgmental place you come from.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what was for me welcoming in the middle of this. And I'm like, wow, I'm just kind of like blowing it. And then there's this new connection where it's like, no, I'm just gonna, like what you're saying, how are you doing? What's really going on? And
Yep.
when you mentioned in the email, thank you for being open. I'm like, I got nothing to lose. There's no hidden agenda. And I want the help. I want to be better, even though life sucks.
Mm-hmm.
The intensity when life flames go up, it's like really intense, as you know.
Yeah.
And you just want to get out of the fire,
Right.
And so
Yeah.
we'll do anything to get out of the fire.
Say that again.
And so we'll do anything just to get out of the fire. But I'm thinking like, well, maybe God wants you in the fire.
Yeah.
So fire does have properties that produce some goodness out of all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And you see the goodness and value in so many others that you just meet in a static relationship, or as you're doing Justine and doing your family life. And,
Yeah.
I think that's really kind of cool.
And not only that, but ponder on this. Ponder on if you never went through the fire, what are the things that the fire has brought into your life that you would have missed out on? One of them is our connection. One of them is reconnecting with your son. One of them is all the people around you coming out of the woodworks to be there for you and help you. The realization and the fruition of knowing whether you want to continue to teach, continue to be part of the church, maybe even the way the church is going would change because of this fire. Maybe it's the realization of knowing that you have suppressed all this stuff and you're trying to be this pretty chiseled iceberg, but in reality, you're avoiding the real stuff that needs to be worked on. And that's why they always say that you do not understand God or the power of God or the true tenacity and the plans that he has set forth, because our little human brains cannot wrap around that fully. Because if we did, then we would just know everything and know all and be God. And so it's just, I guess, being kind to yourself and being patient and every day, just at least finding one thing to be grateful for, finding one thing that you find beauty in, one reason to be kind, one reason to be thankful that you're alive. That's important. And through anything that you're going through, it's always looking for that silver lining and not trying to have everything figured out. For me, when I started seeing a slowdown in my business, and I was kind of worried on, okay, how am I going to keep my employees employed, and how am I going to pay the bills? It's like, those are the moments where you are going to pull your strength out. Those are the moments where you're going to see how you're going to get through this and figure it out. And even if, let's say, you're in this dead-end job that you're not happy about, that's the blessing, is that you have realized that you're not happy here and you want to do something else. And that realization is what's going to take you into the next level of doing what you love. Same thing with when my business is slowing down. I I looked into how to be more competitive. For a while, I was like, oh, the business is slowing down because I'm slowing down. I got real comfortable. I just thought that these sales were going to continue to flow the way they did.
Right.
But in reality, algorithms change, SEO changes, marketing strategies change. People come on board on Etsy and they're smarter and they're faster, and they really, really dive deep into how to do better. And that's what you're competing against. And that's why entrepreneurs are the most resilient people you will ever meet, because if you are not resilient, you are not cut out to be an entrepreneur, because you're constantly having to adapt. So that's just, it's just how it goes. And you have to realize that in the struggle, in the breakdown, there is always beauty. There is always something better. There's always more at that end, even though it may not feel like it. And on top of that, realizing that your mind is so powerful and it controls everything. So if I was a veteran, I got out of war, and I'm telling myself, I've seen a lot of messed up stuff. I've done a lot of messed up stuff.
Mhm.
I just don't want to live anymore. Okay, then that person is probably going to go down the route of darkness. Whereas if you switch that and you're like, I've seen a lot of messed up stuff. I've done a lot of messed up stuff. I want to help other veterans know that they're not alone. And I don't want anyone to feel alone in this battle that I'm having with myself. And I want to create this organization and this nonprofit. And I want to, I saw, there's a company that rehabilitates dogs and gives them to veterans for assistance, and
Mhm.
it's specifically for service members, for emotional support. So it's like there's always better things that can come out of it. Just make sure that you are not staying in that dark place and going down that dark path, because life is always going to give you good and bad. God gave us free will for a reason. He wants us to come to him and not be forced to go to him. That's like a conqueror or a dictator. You see them as a god when they're not really a god, and they're not really providing the best for you, but you don't know any better. Once you do know better, once you do educate yourself and you do tap into that knowledge, is when you can better yourself and take care of your life.
That right there is a mouthful. Welcome to Night Moods, the podcast. I'm Michael. I'm here in the lab with, I'm gonna call him my great friend,
Yeah.
Justine. And you're inside the second half of the show. We're going to take a minute to gather ourselves and hit the home stretch real good.
Mhm.
Night Moods is sponsored by Magnus Opus Presents Alive. Experience the movement that will awaken your heart and soul. Performed by professional dancers from around the world. Alive is coming to the RPL Nordoff Center March 17th at 7 p.m. Get your tickets at www.magnumopusballet.org. Welcome into Night Moods. We're talking about faith, life, love. Justine is just doing some mic drops. She's probably winded. I really appreciate you being in for the second installment of Night Moods. And I think this conversation is much needed. And I was there listening to what you're talking about on the second part of what you were delivering.
Mhm.
And so many times, and I can raise my hand and say, I am that type too, that we wrap it up really nice. For whatever reasons we're doing it, but underneath this wrap box, and it looks nice and the presentation's great. And then when this fire is really lit,
Mhm.
it's like what you're talking about, the iceberg. It's like it's so a disastrous carnation, and maybe a falsehood. I don't know. Maybe I can say it's a facade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
What?
something that you're probably comfortable with and accustomed to, that you don't even realize you're doing it. It's so subconscious.
Could be. Yeah, could be. And then also we're manufacturing because we don't want people, to be let in,
Mm.
because if they were to see like that onion,
Hmm.
it would be like that ugly burning of the eyes, sulfur type deal. But I was really just engaging what you're talking about, and I wanted to share this with
Yeah.
you
And on
because
that onion part too, it's like Shrek. He is the ugly ogre. There's nothing to hide about him. And it's like you start to realize that he's actually a really good guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, this it's like focus on what's going right rather than what's going wrong.
Mhm.
That's all I heard last night from my son, from Chris, and two good friends of mine.
Yeah.
Um, and that when you're like smooth sailing, maybe on autopilot, I forgot who told me, Michael, you're on autopilot right now and you're not taking care of yourself. I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm thinking like, what do you mean? I'm taking care of myself. Like, no, bro, you're on autopilot.
Mhm.
If we were to disengage you, you would wreck.
It's like survival mode almost too.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thrust of this conversation. Like you talked about being authentic and just coming to the table. And I don't believe that there are many high IQ types that would knock the fence down so others can see, what's really going on.
Mhm.
And that's why I truly enjoy our fellowship, because I don't have to be, Minister Thomas or life coach or doctor, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Like, hey, how's it going? It's terrible. No. I'm having a good day or whatever,
Right.
and out of just being your desire to see kindness, has just blossomed like, like a flower in a garden to me. So yeah, coming to these relationships with, like, yeah, having boundaries as we get to know each other, because the Bible says you know those who we labor with. So we're not coming in like, okay, he reads good, she reads good, everything's great, so I'm gonna take her at face value.
Yeah.
But you're taking the time to want to get to know, and I think that we as in humanity need to do the same thing. Versus, I'm going to project this image, and so I'm going to live life through this image, and so you're
Mhm.
not getting this authentic relationship, and so you see all that sever, and it's like, well, I thought we had something, but what we really had was superficial. And I wonder how many of you are living that same life pattern. And I'm okay to let you know where I'm at. It's like I'm an open book in many aspects, because it helps me with you and others that are my mentors. It just helps me remain grounded and see me for who I am.
Mhm. Mhm. And that's the thing is you should never keep that away from anyone that is truly meant and deserving to be in your life because all of us are unique individuals. Um, God created us all differently. So if you are trying to give everyone this polished version of you, and that's not to say share every little
Right.
detail about you to everyone, but that's what's going to create those deeper connections. That's what's going to attract other authentic people to you. That's what's going to teach others how to be that way and how it's a lot better and healthier in the long run.
Mhm.
Um, I've had to tell my mom numerous times. She'll go through something, she'll get herself out of it, and then she'll tell me. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me why you were in the rut? Why didn't you tell me why you were going through it? Because I want to be part of that, and it's unfair to me if you claim that you love me and that I'm your daughter and you want me to be your best friend. Well,
Mhm.
why would you keep that from me? So it's things like that help me learn and realize too, because I'm very intuitive. Um, it teaches me how I want to be or don't want to be. So even with my own friends, I always want them to open up to me. I want to be able to help them. I don't want them to feel like asking me for a favor is something they can't do.
Mhm.
Even with family, if they're going through anything financial, anything mental, spiritual, just come to me. And if I can help, then I will do everything in my power to help, because that's what family's for. And that's what friendship and bond and connection is for. And that's why we're all placed here, is to help each other out and connect with each other and inspire each other and motivate each other. We're human beings. We weren't born to be cows. We have all these different gifts that we were given, and we have to utilize it and use it to the best of our abilities, because tomorrow is not promised. And if you die tomorrow, what are you leaving behind? What are you being remembered for? What's your legacy? So all those things, it just proves that um, you shouldn't keep yourself from anyone that um, is truly deserving of getting to know you and love you for who you are.
Girl, this is why I keep saying you are God's gift to this generation. I kid you not. I mean, it's not to build up your ego. It's like, it's just
Yeah,
real is real. You
yeah.
know, you can go to Twitter and Justine's hashtag is what?
Its handle is Miss XJY. That's MISSXJY.
So yeah, see, I said hashtag and I don't know what I'm doing.
You're fine.
But I mean that, and I just honestly feel I know there's more. There's others out that God has placed in all of our pathways who are like you,
Mhm,
but I only know you,
mhm,
and I can attest, and my witnesses, you are truly one of God's keys in my pathway, but to the generation, whether it's, my generation of the 50-year-olds,
mhm,
your generation, or even the younger girls coming. And I was going to ask you this question.
mhm.
How close are you with your mom? There's got to be like this really close connection.
Yeah, we're really close, but we both have strong personalities. I'm literally like a spitting DNA of her, where even when I get mad, I'm like, whoa, that was my mom, or like, and it's just like, even my work ethic. Okay, like, I'm like my mom, and there's things that I like. I see like the flaws where I'm like, okay, I don't want to be like that, or I don't want to be too controlling. I don't want to be too OCD, because she's so OCD, and
Mm,
she's like, that cutting board is for meat. This cutting board is for vegetables, and I'm like, mom, they're all the same. And so, but yeah, we're really close. And growing up, she has always said she wanted to be my best friend, but obviously generational gaps, cultural differences, where I'm a lot more Americanized. She has a little bit more of the Korean/American culture
okay.
in her. So little things like that, our communication styles and stuff, like we definitely do clash. um, but overall, we're very close. She's the strongest person I know. She has such a beautiful, great soul. She's just like, sometimes I'm like, mom, you're such a saint, because she's just, when she goes on, she's a big tipper. So when she goes
Mm,
on trips, she has like this envelope just for tips, and she'll tip like the bad guy $20. And I'm like, mom, like, I'm in the wrong career if you're tipping him $20, you know?
right.
And same thing with just things that she does. She's so selfless, she's so giving, she's so thoughtful, so sweet. She's gone through so much in her life, and now she's the caregiver for my grandma and my uncle.
Okay.
And yeah, and it's crazy because everything that life has thrown at her, I know that it's aged her so much, and so she has health issues, and she's
Mm,
just going through it. But overall, every day she just takes care of everyone that she can. And I always have to remind her, like, take care of yourself, slow down, relax. But she always tells me, I just can't relax. I can't relax. I'm like, girl. Yeah.
Kind of cool. I'm gonna put you on a hot seat.
Mm-hmm.
Hot seat with Justine, going down right now in the lab on the podcast, learning about Justine.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to have
Mm-hmm.
any superpower, what would it be?
Superpower. I feel like I've thought about this before. I don't want to say mind reading. I don't know why mind reading comes to my head first, because it's like a curse. I watched Ant-Man yesterday, and one of the guys had the power of mind reading, and he's like, stop thinking that. So I feel like for a superpower, probably healing. It would have to be healing. Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
I would just love that. So, I mean, I'm sure there's so many different ways to think of healing. So it could be spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically. But that's a really good superpower to have.
If you weren't an entrepreneur, and I'm saying a minister, because I just know, what would you be doing?
If I wasn't an entrepreneur, I would definitely want to be in a position where I can influence. So, like that podcast idea really is cool to me, because you're pretty much talking and connecting with people as your quote unquote job. Same thing with, nowadays there's a lot of influencers, a lot of social media presence. So for me, I would want to brand myself, but also, like me and my cousin tried to start like a TikTok, which we're still doing. It's just we don't have much time for it. But imagine just creating TikToks, whether you're getting sponsored for traveling or eating good foods, and it's just you having a good old time with your cousin, which me and my cousin are really close, and we're polar opposites, so we get along really well, if that makes any sense. But so I think I answered this question on Twitter because someone said, if you can make $1 million doing something, what would it be? And I said the same thing, like podcast / influencer, something of that sort.
I believe you're ready for it. Night Eagles, you're listening to Faith, Life, and Love, Faith, Love, and Life with myself and Justine sitting here in the lab. Now, I want you guys to email. This is where you guys get to participate. Complete participation is happening right now. Justine is putting together a podcast. Well, she wants to do a podcast. Now, let's do a poll. Let's do a poll, Justine.
Okay.
We're going to do a poll. For the next week, I want you guys to go on to Twitter. And now I'm going to say this the right way this time. Her Twitter handle is at Miss XJY, Twitter handle. And we can do this, yes or no, to the podcast. Now, you've heard Justine. I can't wait for her podcast to come out, because I'm going to be the number 3 fan next to her mom and boyfriend, and supporting everything that she's doing. I just honestly believe God is using you. I'm not going to talk in third person because you're here with us. You're just tremendous to me. You're tremendous because of you're passionate about compassion. And this is who you are. And so for the next week, you guys, Night Eagles, go ahead and even go to NiteMoodzHQ on the Twitter handle. And you're going to see this episode or the podcast. And yes, to her jump starting this podcast, I think she's going to be just a veteran. I believe you're going to be just A-okay, because you're providing such value to myself, and I know to the rest of Night Eagles listening, you're providing, and I mean that, you're providing a lot of value. And I want to say thank you for just being you, like you talked about earlier, authentication, being authentic. And that's what I appreciate, even with your one-liners. You're in the lab. This is NiteMoodzHQ, the podcast. I'm with Justine. closing down the show, because I could probably keep her on for the next 3 hours, and we would just flying through this. But we want to support Justine, and how can they support you and the business side? For any of you dog lovers, animal lovers, four-legged lovers, she has a nice website. What's the website called?
My website is lovelightpaws.com. That's LOVE for love, LIGHT for light, and PAWS for paws.
And you can get all your pet accessories 24/7. And she even gives you a model of what you're getting. I really think it's kind of cool how she does her business, because she's just not selling you a product. She's invested. And that's really, you don't find that a lot with a lot of business owners who are going that extra mile to say, hey, let me send you out what it's going to look like. Give me back some feedback and we can make adjustments, get it back to you. I've been doing my homework. It's on point. It's on point. I don't have any animals, or else I'd be hanging in there and getting the product. I'm not going to get a little tiny dog, because I saw the picture.
Yeah.
Pink hair. It's really kind of cool.
Yeah, that's my mom's dog. Well, my grandma's dog, but yes.
Your favorite movie?
Saving Private Ryan and Lion King.
Really?
Yes. Saving Private Ryan, I am really into like firearms, military, all the tactical stuff. And I don't know why, but I've always told myself if I could be anything, it would be really cool to be a fighter jet pilot, to be in one of those fighter jets. And I just feel like it would be super cool.
Have you been down to Myanmar?
Is that San Diego?
North of San Diego.
Yeah. Is it where the ship is? Yeah. I have.
All the jets fly out of there, so I kind of miss Sandog. I do miss Sandog. Justine, thank you so much. I want to ask one more question, and this one helps me out, but there's a number of things. If you could, what do you want to leave behind for your generation? What do you want to leave behind?
For my generation, honestly, I feel like it would be really cool, and this might be a little more simple, but a simpler answer, but it would be really cool to leave behind like some sort of family business or something of that sort. But I also just want to leave behind my mark, whether it be through my writing, through my podcast. We're in the era of social media and personal branding. And so I feel like everything I do now, it's more timeless because it's going to be on the internet and it's going to stay there. So I would just like to leave behind a mark of the value that I bring. And I want people to know that I'm here to serve and here to help, and just hopefully that will provide some Mother Teresa vibes to people.
I think you're doing it. You said writing. Are you writing like a book?
I would love to write a book. I honestly, the thing is that I don't know how people write so much in their book. I think writing a book would be cool. I just don't know how I would get started or what exactly I would write about, because I know there's so many books out there already. I do journal. I was an avid blogger. So I was always that was my outlet, was writing. So I like kind of writing, and then I kind of got into music for a little bit, and lyrics and poetry and singing. And so it's like I'm a really strong writer. I did really well in school with essays and everything like that. But yeah, that would actually be really cool if one day I get kind of that bug for writing a book.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, she's writing. That's kind of cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Learn something new about Justine. Okay. That's for a further conversation down the road.
Yes, sir.
Hey, everybody, this is Night Moods, And we're going to come to closing the lab because I'm hoping that we can do this on a regular. I really, we talked about it at the beginning, and I want to support everything you're doing. I mean that. Just because you are God's gift to humanity, and that's just from me to you and the rest of Night Eagles listening. So I definitely want you all listening to this podcast to support Miss Justine in her endeavors and what God's doing for her. She is, and doing through her, doing for her and doing through her is two different distinctions. And it's just phenomenal that that she's here, and she could be anywhere else, but she's here. She's here, and we hope to have her back in the lab again. And now I purposely got to bring this one in. I got to bring it to an end because there's so much more. And she's got so much more to deliver. And I can't wait to see you doing some awesome things on your podcast.
Yes.
Hint, hint,
bring
hint.
it to fruition, manifest it.
So that's what we want to have you guys support. Go to NiteMoodzHQ on the Twitter handle. And when you see this post, or the tweet, I should say, throw a thumbs up or say a yes or nay to the podcast. All things podcast for Miss Justine in the future. We want to get her some support. Thank you, Justine. And I feel like 90% better than when we were on the phone talking before I went to my meeting. And that's just what you do. And I just want to say thank you again for just being you, Thank you for coming and being in the lab with me.
And thank you for showing up. And I would love to make this a regular thing. I always enjoy my conversations with you. I never want them to end. It's one of those Joe Rogan podcasts where they go on for like 3-5 hours.
I know. One of these times that we might get 2 hours in. We might, because there's so much, because it's easy to talk to you. It's easy to exchange ideas, exchange thoughts, and the wisdom we get to exchange. Whether we agree or disagree, we're exchanging, and then we can do what we need to do with that as we live life out. So that's what I really appreciate. So thank you so much for being in the lab.
Absolutely. Anytime.
And anytime, we're going to have her back in. Hopefully we can do it once a month. What do you guys think? We can do it a monthly episode with Justine.
That should be another poll too.
Say it again?
That should be another poll.
I know. Yeah. You know what? I gotta remind me to do that, because I gotta make a poll, and we'll put that out on the podcast side.
Yeah.
We'll put some polls together. But we're gonna come to a close. You can email any questions you have for Justine. I want you to send an email to NiteMoodzHQ@gmail.com. And on the platforms, Wisdom platform, just send a message in. I will forward it over to Justine. You can connect with her on the Wisdom app, because you're going to see the interview on the Wisdom app. So you'll be able to connect with Justine. She is available for you. And if you're on Twitter, her Twitter handle is
Miss XJY.
That's Miss. What does that mean, by the way?
So Miss as an MISS, and then X is just like separating the two words, and then JY are my initials.
Duh.
Yeah, I really wanted to have my Instagram handle is Embrace Discomfort, and I wanted that for Twitter, but it's too long. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She's on IG. She's on Twitter. She does one-liners, and she does not like threads, you guys. So just know, don't complain with Justine. She'll give you a one-liner and call it a day. Yeah. I'm just letting you know.
Yep. I got things to do. I got places to go. I got people to see.
It's been awesome. I'm going to close it out tonight. Remember, and this is for myself too, and I mean this. I say this on the radio show. Love yourself before you love others, and make sure you're blessing yourself before you bless others, because that's self-care. Blessing yourself is self-care.
Amen.
And until next time, I'll see you back here in the lab for the next installment and episode of Night Moods. Have a good night. Talk to you guys again on Night Moods. The lab is closing. Good night, everybody. We are off.
Is the wisdom off too?